great conversations continue. As I said, Thursday. Can you believe it? The time has absolutely flown. Thank you very much for joining us. We appreciate you being in our company. And we continue our positive brand South Africa messaging. It's all about building South Africa by introducing you to organizations and institutions that really do the heavy lifting, in my opinion. They think about the things that you and I sometimes don't think about. Now, African music is deeply rooted in tradition, storytelling, and craftsmanship, yet many of its instruments remain underappreciated or even at risk of being forgotten. That's why the Music in Africa Foundation, in partnership with UJ Arts and Culture, has launched Vibrations, an extraordinary exhibition showcasing over 100 indigenous African musical instruments from across the continent. And you've got no excuses. It's running until the 14th of March. The exhibition offers visitors a rare opportunity to explore the history, artistry, and cultural significance of these instruments. I'm joined now by Maila, who is the project manager at Music in Africa. Violet, good morning, and thank you for joining me.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
This is something I'm definitely coming to. This feels to me like it's a perfect Saturday kind of jaunt, kind of from 11 onwards, and just come and spend 2 or 3 hours there. It feels like a perfect Saturday for me. Mm-hmm. Before we talk about the actual exhibition that's underway, maybe just take us in your confidence. What's Music in Africa Foundation about? I've always thought it was a record company.
It is not, but we do work with a lot of record labels. So the Music in Africa Foundation was established in 2013 as initially an online portal for creating an environment or networking space for African musicians to network and create profiles, so that you have sort of a digital profile for the music you do, but also as a reliable source for all things African music, because there isn't, still to this day, there isn't that many platforms that you can visit to learn about African music in whatever way, you know. So that was initially what the Music in Africa Foundation started doing. And then I think over the years, realizing that there's more needs for African musicians in terms of capacities, in terms of information, access to funds, access to markets. And so a sort of another leg of the foundation was created, where we basically design projects and concepts and ideas that we believe will service the African musicians. So whether it's around building capacities, whether it is around learning to build instruments, just getting access to markets, having a wider access to a global market, the industry in general across the continent, etc. So we sit and we come up with ideas, and also host what is probably one of the biggest growing African music markets on the continent, called Access, which is a conference that we host in a different African country every year. We invite... going. Yeah, you please come. And we invite the music industry, not just the African industry, but the global music industry, to come and share information, offer opportunities for people to network. And then we also have a showcasing element of that, which over 2-3 days we will we'll have a call open, and then we'll have African artists, up and coming artists, perform and showcase to this global network. So that what happens is that for a lot of artists, they then end up having opportunities to go and perform across the continent, because we invite record labels, festival bookers, promoters, and they see the talent and then, help them in kind of expanding. So we host that every year in November. Last year we were in Kigali in Rwanda, and prior to that we have visited Kenya, Senegal, Tanzania as well. So continuously growing.
All countries with beautiful history in music. And I think we don't often realize that a lot of the genres we know today was born and bred on the African continent.
100%.
So whether you think of blues, whether you think of rock, whether you think of almost any genre, whether it's become a huge thing in the UK and America, was born here.
Absolutely. And I think that for us is key, like just to create platforms where that music and that heritage continues to live.
And is celebrated.
And is celebrated because it is phenomenal. It is unique. We don't find what we have anywhere else in the world.
Yeah.
And the world kind of looks to us, to that. And so when we do things like this particular project, that has a big part about preserving heritage, preserving indigenous knowledge systems, then it becomes key to making sure that we can preserve the source of kind of the output of the creativity that you see and hear in African music.
I worked for, was it Radio 2000 or SFM? And I always knew about African music to a degree. I mean, now and then 3, 4, 5 Angelique Kidjos and the Salif Keitas and all these guys will blow up internationally. And then a lot of us then get to hear, these are guys are coming from the African continent. But there was a gentleman, and I know he still does it, Richard Mwamba.
Yes, I think
he used to do a very specific focus show on a Saturday afternoon. And I learned so much about African music by listening to Richard Mwamba's show. And it was things that I never even, you hear one song of one artist on high rotation and you think that's the only. But meanwhile, they've got bodies of work. And Richard, I credit with opening up my mind to what was on the African continent and how amazing the sounds are.
Absolutely. There's so much diversity. And you're right. I mean, you reference Richard Mwamba. There's also Nikki Blumenfeld who does this, those, and they're few and far between.
Too few, actually.
Like very, very few. And when you listen to those shows and hear what they share, then you do realize how massive our catalog is. And I think it's really important to try and how do we take that, what I've learned and you've learned from listening, how do you pass that on and have your kids listen to that and have access to that kind of music? So for us, that's it. We have this amazing online portal where African musicians from up and coming to established to so-called established musicians create profiles, and then you can have you can go on our website, click on a name and listen to all the music, for example. So it's really important to kind of keep it accessible.
Yeah, and I think maybe the time has come. It sounds like a great secret. We need to get more and more people to know about it.
Absolutely.
That there's a platform, a portal where you can just listen to music the same way you would go to YouTube or any of these. But it's up to us to also expand our interest. So Vibrations, it is 100 indigenous African musical instruments, and that must have been, I know you're the project manager, this must be a really stressful but fun exhibition to put together.
Yeah, it was an enlightening exercise, and maybe if I can try it.
Is that the new word for stressful?
That's my word. Let me maybe try and contextualize this project. And this project for us is important. It is part of, the exhibition is part and parcel of a bigger project that we call Instrument Building and Repair.
Okay.
And the reason we do that is purely for heritage preservation, and also most importantly for keeping skills of building indigenous instruments or African instruments alive, and also then teaching people to monetize on that. So
which
is huge. People must be able to make money in the skills and the craft that they have, right? And not just be seen as sort of artisans.
Struggling artisans.
So this project we've been running also since 2016, I think.
And that was curated by Mpo.
Yeah, so the exhibition itself was curated. So project sits in 3 parts. So what we do is we select a group of people across the continent, actually, who we then bring down to Johannesburg, and we find an expert in an instrument and we teach them how to build that instrument over a number of days. So we had about 15 people this year who trained on a West African marimba type instrument called the balafon, and they were trained by Farai from Matake Projects, who is he's an alumni of the same project. So what we do is we sit with these guys for 7 days. They learn every detail of building this particular instrument. They learn a bit of theory from the trainer, and then they leave with this instrument. But for us, they've left with the instrument, yes, but they go back to their communities in the Eastern Cape, and they're going to teach people how to do that, and they're going to make money from teaching people how to do that. So we are keeping the heritage alive, and we are teaching people skills, and we're helping people to try and make money from what they learn and what they do. So the exhibition element is new, We've been wanting to do it for a long time, and it's part of a bigger plan because our dream is to have a museum of African instruments.
That's
the dream,
amazing.
And so this exhibition was a first attempt, and I think we've done exceptionally well with somebody who is so passionate about about African music, African instruments, and Pomodikeng. He's an instrument maker himself, and an activist for this kind of thing. So he has a great network of other people with the same kind of passions, and they managed to pull off gathering over 100 instruments.
Violet, there's 100 instruments in this exhibition, but just
over 100.
Over 100. But just top of mind, how many instruments do you think there are on the African continent that we have not even
I
think
can't
about?
even begin to tell you because, I was privileged enough to be invited to Morocco at the end of last year with a partner. We have a partner in an organization called Africana, and they do similar work around digitizing content with instruments, and built a website around it. And some of the things I saw there, I could never have imagined.
Yeah.
And also, just what's interesting, one of the feature instruments that we built for us that we have in the exhibition is something called a smilophone, which is
so I know of a xylophone.
So there's a smilophone. And it was a new instrument that was created by a gentleman called Smile, who's based in Eswatini. That's why he called it what it is. But it's fascinating.
Yeah.
It's almost like it's umakoyana, like bow instruments, like uhadi, with calabashes, but they've been set up in a way so there's various uhadis, let's say, on a stand, and you kind of start to play with them using these sticks and the kind of tension of the strings of how it's attached to this sort of bamboo stand. And it's an exhibition, and it's an interactive piece of instrument that you can touch and play with and experience. And to see the variety of sort of for the most part, a lot of people just think African instruments and automatically we go to ngomas and drums.
Yes.
But the variety of what exists within the bowl and within the strings. We have choras within the exhibition. We have instruments that are made out of crocodile skins, things I have never seen before from all parts of the continent.
Fascinating Saturday
so
afternoon.
it really is a beautiful
experience.
A beautiful experience, and also I think a vital experience for our children to experience. I think we must take our kids to see this. We have, this sonic...
As you're talking, who jumps to mind? I don't know if you've ever engaged with him, but there was a show years ago when I was a kid. I wasn't a kid.
Pedro the Music Man. No, I knew exactly you because we engaged him because he has a collection.
You can take a piece of kelp, you can take a wood. He has
a collection of instruments that he was one of the sort of contributors for us, and one of the most interesting he had, which we unfortunately couldn't bring to the exhibition. But it's, if you can imagine giant rocks at different sizes that you then kind of play like you would a xylophone. It's the most fascinating
had an entire show for years.
The Music Man, absolutely.
Pedro the Music Man.
Yeah.
Okay, so as we wrap up, where can people go? How can they get their tickets? Admission is free, right?
So yes, the exhibition is free because we've partnered up with the University of Johannesburg, who have a beautiful
it's free.
gallery.
You've got no
it is
reason
free.
not to go.
You have no reason. You just have to make the time to do it in the week. That's the stickler.
No Saturdays.
So it's Monday to Friday. They open from 9 till 4 p.m. every day. What I would like to encourage is if you have a group, say a school, for example, if you want to bring school kids to this experience, you can perhaps email us at info@musicinafrica.net so that we can make sure that it's there's a proper experience. We can have the curator come and take you through the experience. There's an online catalog that gives you a sense of that information and what's in that exhibition as well. We spoke to some experts on particular instruments, and they've written some interesting pieces for us within that catalog. So Mondays to Fridays at UJ. email us at info@musicinafrica.net if you'd like to bring on a bigger group of school kids or whatever
or
it
if you're
is.
just a community
and if you, absolutely,
if
of
there's
people
6,
of
8
interest
of you and you want to do something interesting during the week.
Absolutely worth
Violet, Maila, thank you very much for joining us. That's the project manager at Music in Africa, talking to us about Vibrations, which is launched in partnership, Music in Africa Foundation, in partnership with UJ Arts and Culture. And the email is simple. It's info@musicinafrica.net. And go and find out more. Go and visit the website. There's a playlist of African artists. It's an experience. So if you go on the website, it's a portal. You can go through, learn more about African music. You can play it in the background. It's a really great project. Okay, we're a couple of minutes away from the top of the hour news. Manel will be in studio, and it's all positive.